Well, guys, I haven't filmed it in a few days here, so I'm posting now. But what if I told you that in the long run, the third-party app delivery business is not long-term sustainable in its present format? Those last few words are pretty important in this because I don't think it's going to stay in its present format for much longer than about 3 or 4 years from this point. And what I'm going to explain here real quick is why I don't believe it's long-term sustainable in its present format, and then what the future direction will be, I believe, will be on this. You've heard me talk a lot about the second half, but not about the first. So why do I think that the present-day format of third-party app delivery is not sustainable? Well, here's what we've got: pressures from 3 different angles at this point, and at some point something is going to have to give. Right now, customers believe that they're being charged exorbitant amounts, and they probably are, for this delivery service, and they're also now on top of that being told that they need to tip in order to be able to have their food delivered. And on top of the very high fees that the delivery apps already charge, then a customer revolt for a service that is largely unnecessary. By the way, I believe there are a handful of cases where this is a necessary service, but most of them it is not. It is a convenience. It is not necessary. Nobody's going to live or die if they don't get their DoorDash dinner delivered. There's nothing to say that they can't go get it themselves. So this is not a existential necessary service. It's not like the ambulance driver going to the hospital where you're trying to save a life. This is not that. Now, so that's one pressure, is cost on the customer. The second pressure I'm going to talk about is low pay for the drivers. Again, as I just mentioned, customers are being pressured to tip in order to make the trip even economically viable for a driver. So if a customer doesn't tip above and beyond what they're already being charged on top of their fees for the food delivery, the driver gets paid what on DoorDash, I believe, $2. $2 sometimes to go 10 miles. And in my market, that would be 10 miles out and then also 10 miles back. Because this is Forest Lake, Minnesota, if you take a trip out of town, you're not getting anything to come back. We're delivering to areas that don't have any delivery restaurants nearby at all, largely. But, so that is one pressure, that is economic pressure. The third economic pressure is on the restaurants themselves. They are charged 30% of their gross revenue for each delivery, on top of roughly 10 to 20% on platform access and marketing fees. So a lot of times they're giving away half of their gross revenue on their orders to DoorDash or to Uber Eats. For this reason, I believe we've had a couple of restaurants here terminate third-party app delivery recently. One is a Chinese restaurant a few miles north of here, and you simply can't look them up on the DoorDash app anymore. They just don't exist. But the restaurant is still very much open. I drive by it every day. So pressure is going to come on restaurants. The only restaurants that are going to sign up for third-party delivery services are brand new ones. So if they are just opening in general, then they become new customers for Uber and DoorDash. But they're not going to gain any new restaurants from people that don't have the services right now. Again, as I mentioned, we have several Asian restaurants within the city of Forest Lake and a couple of other nearby towns. Only one offers third-party delivery, and that's one 10 miles to our south. Still in our zone, but 10 miles to our south. No other Asian restaurant in this particular area offers third-party delivery. And I'm sure the economic costs are part of the reason. So you've got economic pressures on restaurants, economic pressures on customers, and economic pressures on drivers. At some point, something is going to give. And the entire house of cards would come either crashing down or at least be severely damaged at this point. DoorDash cleared net profit last year of about $1.5 billion. This is probably their high water mark, because I think you're going to have fewer drivers out there eventually, fewer customers because they don't want to keep paying these high fees for what is really a convenience item. You don't have to order DoorDash to survive. And finally, the economic pressures on drivers. I think as the truth comes out about how much drivers are paid or how little they're paid, I think the attraction of this gig will eventually decline. We're already seeing some of this on, if you Google up DoorDash driver pay, this information is getting out there. Companies cannot hide this in the digital age as much as they could before. We're in 2026, you can find out pretty much anything about anybody. It's why the cult that I survived is struggling to grow. It's because they can't recruit new members because information on them is too easy to find. Same goes for driver pay. It's too easy to find information about DoorDash driver pay, about even driver expenses and things like that. So the ability to attract new drivers goes down because this information is readily available. It's information that DoorDash clearly doesn't want people to have, because they do everything they can not to let people know as they sign up about things like vehicle expenses and things like what their pay structure is. I don't even know what they advertise these days as far as what they say that you can make as a DoorDash driver. I haven't looked at any of the enrollment advertisements and pages for quite some time, simply because I don't really need to know what they're saying. I just know what the reality is. So at some point this house of cards will come crashing down. Now, I say it as the business presently stands. And yes, that could change. In fact, it will change. I guarantee it's going to. And I'll sum it up in one word: drones. We already have DoorDash delivery robots strolling streets of dense urban areas, such as Los Angeles and San Francisco. We already know that they're moving towards these types of deliveries. Right now, we are using high capacity vehicles to deliver single bags of food. Not efficient. At some juncture, they will be able to switch to drones for the small food deliveries. So your McDonald's value meal, your typical Applebee's single bag order, things of that nature would be drone delivery. And guess what? You don't have to tip a drone. So that aspect of the cost for a customer is going to be alleviated. The fees will still go to DoorDash, and the cost for them to deliver a drone to deliver food, I don't know exactly what that number looks like, but it's probably similar to what they're paying the drivers at this point, the $2 to $3 base. So they're going to be spending about the same amount on delivery costs without requesting tips from customers to offset vehicle expenses, which I think are going to be higher than an automated drone delivery. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you somehow have any inside information on this, drop it in the comments. But otherwise, I believe that cost that is borne by DoorDash will be similar to present day. The cost to operate a drone for delivery purposes, just drop it off on somebody's porch, just land it on the porch, drop it off, and have it fly away. These are probably I don't think that these are going to be internal combustion engine drones. I don't even know if those exist, but they probably are going to be like battery powered drones. So there is some maintenance. There's also no vehicle. There may not be much of vehicle depreciation. Your depreciation is not going to be a factor in expenses for our drone. Insurance may be. Vehicle payments are not, because drones can be bought outright by DoorDash. They're bought outright by Ukraine for their war right now for about $5,000 to $10,000. So vehicle acquisition purposes will probably be a little bit less than what it is for human drivers at this point. So that will cost probably a little bit less. So that costs less. Depreciation is a non-factor. Insurance, I don't know. I don't know what drone insurance costs. But I think overall, when the end game is done, the cost to DoorDash for driver expenses will be about the same as it is today. But that pressure to tip will disappear. So that part of the pressure equation will disappear. The expenses on what they pay for drivers right now will be similar. So those fees may adjust a little bit, or they may keep them the same, which with lower driver expenses means that their profit expands. So that is the change in the business I can see alleviating this. And if the business doesn't self-collapse within 2 to 3 years, they have enough time. And I think this is what Tony Zhu is counting on at this moment, and Dara Khosrowshahi, that they have enough time for the drone part of the food delivery business to kick in 2 to 3 years, with present day technology being where it's at. And then the profit margins will actually increase with those changes, and without tips being required from customers to subsidize those driver expenses. So that economic pressure will go down. Economic pressure on the restaurants will be similar. Economic pressure, well, of course, on the drivers, there won't be as many. I think the only orders that will require human drivers in the future are not going to be your fast food deliveries. They're going to be catering orders, large orders, which some exist on the DoorDash platform at this present, but at the present, those are the domain of other apps such as Meals Now. But the drone revolution is coming, and so there will be fewer drivers required in the future. And this also means that DoorDash will not need to burn through driver acquisition costs, marketing fees that they pay, or bonuses that they pay out to new drivers. That will definitely just continue for quite some time. Again, a boost to their profits. So there it is. What if I told you that the third-party app delivery business is not sustainable in its present format, but also explaining how that format will change in the future? I guarantee it. We're going to see it in about 2 to 3 years, possibly 5. But I think with drone technology, particularly being advanced by the Ukrainian military specifically, to the level that they have advanced it, and the way that they have driven down costs to the point where the United States military is interested in it now. And Tony Zhu and Dara Khosrowshahi are definitely interested in Ukraine's technology. They're probably on the phone with Vladimir Zelensky right now, figuring out how to get their hands on this relatively inexpensive technology, how to get drones that can deliver with a purchase cost of $5,000 to $10,000. Ukraine builds these now. That capability exists now. But how to retrofit it to food delivery is a different animal entirely. So give it about 2, 3, maybe 5 years. And that's the business change I'm looking at. That will basically save third-party app delivery. So that's it for now. I'll be back in a bit. Again, I've been very busy in the last few days. Haven't had time to film any new episodes. But all's very well here. You folks have a fantastic day. Peace out, homies.